Right, Assalamualaikum and a very good day, everyone. So, this is the continuation of the previous video that you have watched just now. Okay, so you need to download this file, okay, Microsoft Word file on standard operating procedure in Kalam. Okay, right, so activity 4.1 here is going to be the awareness activity. For example, okay, as stated here, you recently bought a flashing emergency light. So you need to assemble its electrical components. So what do you do? Okay, do you read the manual or do you use your own experience or logic of sense, okay, to assemble the electrical components? So let's say in my case, I don't have a background knowledge on it, so I'm going to read the manual. So this is on awareness. I'm not going to touch anything on the input part here because I have explained about this in the video before this. All right. So I'm just going to skip it and then let's have a look at this important thing, which is the sample format for a technical SOP. So just to let you know, this is the kind of format or template that you are going to have for your next assessment or assessment 2. Okay. All right. So there are 8 main things that you need to have, okay, in the template or in the assessment. Number one is going to be this particular box. It appears on the right hand side of the top corner of the paper or the page. So in this particular box, you need to have the reference number, the date, and the page number. Okay, so I'm going to explain about it later. Then number two, it is going to be the title. Number three, it is on department or unit. Number four, the purpose of the SOP. Number five, who can perform this SOP. Then we move on to the equipment or tools needed. Number six is going to be the personal protective equipment, tools, reference materials, and others. Number seven is going to be the procedure. And lastly will be the signature. Okay, I mean, who prepared the SOP, it is reviewed by whom, and approved by whom. So that will be the main structure of the template of the SOP that you're going to work on for your second assessment. Okay, so number one, reference number, the date, and the page number. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the reference number and also the page number because the date is going to be the date that you need to perform the task, okay, or when you are preparing the SOP. So reference number, let's say in the question paper, just to let you know, your second assessment is going to be a pair work. So each pair will have, okay, maybe a pair or individually. So each pair or individually, you are going to be given different set of question. So if the reference number is stated in the question paper, then you need to use the reference number stated there. Okay, and then for the page number, let's say the SOP that you have prepared over here, for example, okay, so let's say the reference number is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Why is it not working? Okay, all right, the reference number is 1, maybe 2, 3, and 4, for instance. Okay, and then the page number, let's say you have 5 pages altogether for the SOP. So the first page is going to be 1 of 5. The second page, second or 2 of 5. The third page, 3 of 5. The fourth page is 4 of 5, and the last page or the final page will be 5 of 5. So when you are referring to the contents, okay, on that particular page, make sure you write it accordingly or correctly. So if you are writing or preparing the SOP on the second page, the page number should be 2 of 5. So how many pages? Depending on the steps that you are going to take into consideration. So when you are preparing the process and procedure, so it depends. How many steps is it going to be? So 3 pages, 5 pages, or 4 pages, it depends. Okay, all right. So that will be about the page number. Okay, for the title over here, standard operating procedure. So do not forget you need to use the word for when you are referring to the specific task. So in this example, standard operating procedure for transferring liquid chemicals. So you can look at other examples as well. They are using the linkers of the word for when you are combining between the standard operating procedure plus the transferring liquid chemicals. Okay, right, we have activity 4.2. You can do this on your own. Okay, number three here, this is for the unit or department, okay, the department or the unit. So this SOP has been written for the research and development laboratory, or you can also write it like this one. This SOP is written for the research and development laboratory. So when the one in bold over here is actually referring to the department or the unit that need to perform the task or using the SOP. Then you have activity 4.3. Okay, you can do this on your own or with your partner. Number 4 will be the purpose. So there are three main parts of the purpose. Number 1 is the most important, or you need to have this. This is compulsory. So number 1, the aim or the function of the SOP. Number 2 and number 3 will be optional. So number 2 will be the specific audience who will be reading the SOP. Okay. And number 3, the regulatory standards or the safety measure. Let's have a look at the example given here. The purpose of this SOP is to provide instructions for the safe use of 50% sulfuric acid to prevent spills, harmful vapors, and injury to the worker and environment. So the one in bold over here is actually the aim or the function of the SOP. Why you need to have the SOP. Okay, and then the underlined words over here is actually referring to the specific audience. So activity 4.4 over here, you can do this on your own. So do not forget, read carefully on the examples. Okay, number 5, who can perform the job? Okay, so you can just go through it. All right. Number 6, PPE tools reference materials. So I'm going to talk only about reference materials here. So any sort of reading or reference materials that can be suggested or that has been referred to when the SOP was written need to be written under reference materials. So it means that in the question paper, if it is stated that you need to refer to this specific reference material, then you need to write it in the template. Or if it is suggested that you go to the online sources and then you need to use this material as part of the writing process, then you need to write it there as well. Okay, before that, activity 4.6, you can do it on your own. Activity 7, it is on the procedure. Okay, so procedure here or the steps will be a bit longer. So it depends on the steps that you're going to take or perform. Okay, so there are three kinds of format that can be used to write a procedure, as I have told you in the previous video. Number 1 is going to be the flowchart or flowchart SOP. Number 2 is graphic operating SOP. Okay, number 3, it is hierarchical SOP. So you can do the readings on each one of the type of SOP or technical SOP over here and on your own. Okay, person in charge. Okay, we're going to talk about each part of it after this. Okay, for number 8 here, person in charge who prepared the SOP. So do not forget to put the signature, full name, plus the designation. Okay, in Malay it is called jawatan. So if you are the technician and you are the one who prepared the SOP, so you put your signature, your full name, and your title. Okay, so you are the technician. So person who review the SOP, okay, so this particular person will need to sign it, put his or her full name, and also the designation. So maybe it's going to be senior technician. Okay, for example, or as it is stated here, maybe it can be the manager, supervisor, or chief officer. Okay, and lastly, person who approved the SOP, right? They also need to put the signature, full name, and then the designation. Okay, so it depends on the situation. So now let's have a look at the flowchart SOP. So it depends on the shapes over here. All right. So if you're looking at this particular shape, this is a terminator, meaning that it means the start and stop of the process. So you can see over here the start, and if you scroll down, it is the end of it. Okay. And if you're looking at the rectangle shapes over here, it is actually the process. Okay, description of action taken. Let's have a look at this one over here, the process. Hit the engine for 5 minutes. So this is the process. And then for the diamond shape over here, it's actually the decision. So this is the question. Are there any problematic sounds? If the answer is yes, then you need to go to other processes before you can move on to the required or the next step. Okay, if your answer is no over here, then you can straight away move to the next step. So this is example on flowchart SOP. All right, and this is how you can transfer it in the template. Okay, right, so you can see over here, prepared by QC engineer, reviewed by senior QC engineer, and lastly approved by general manager. Okay, so graphic operating procedure, just to let you know, this is the one that we are going to have in the second assessment. So you need to arrange all of the information from the left part to the right hand part of the page. Okay, so before alignment, equipment preparation, during alignment, and after alignment. For each of the stage over here, you're going to have the processes. For example, now you have process number 1, assure lab is secured, and number 2, mark the laboratory's door with the notice sign. So what makes it different from flowchart or hierarchical is you're going to have the image under each of the processes. Okay, for example, here, mark the laboratory's door with the notice sign. So this is the sign actually, laser alignment in progress, do not enter, eye protection required. So if you're talking about PPE, maybe you need to wear the PPE, then you're going to have the image of person wearing the safety goggle or maybe like safety helmet, for instance. Okay, so left to right, and then you are going to have the processes for each part or each component. Okay, next is going to be the hierarchical operating procedure format. So this is very straightforward. You have it in the form of numbers. Okay, step number 1, 2, and until the end of it. And this is how you are going to transfer the information in the template. So for the graphic operating procedure, though that it is not given here, but basically it is the same. All right. So you just need to use the template given, fill in the important information, and then under procedure over here, you're going to have the graphic operating procedure or graphic SOP, as it is going to be the one tested in the second assessment. Okay, so go through it thoroughly and then do the exercises. And lastly, over here, if you scroll down until towards the bottom of it, you're going to have the inputs on tips for listening. Why? Because assessment 2 is divided into 2 parts. Part 1 is going to be the SOP itself, writing SOP, and part 2 it is going to be listening test. So we are going to have listening test, and next week, inshallah, all right, we're going to have the exercises on listening. So just read the tips on listening first, and starting next week, okay, we're going to do the exercises. So I believe that's all from me regarding this handout. So just go through it, and if you have any question, any inquiries, okay, regarding the contents and how to do it, okay, feel free to reach me through our WhatsApp group. So that's all from me. Thank you very much, and Assalamu alaikum.